All right.
It already says stop stream because Vimeo already did it on itself, and then you go on Facebook and then hit go live on the bottom left.
Okay. I just got to that. We're going live with the first page. And I don't do anything for YouTube, correct?
Say again, you're breaking up.
I don't do anything for YouTube to start it, correct?
Yeah, you don't have to do anything.
Okay. Now I'm just gonna push the next scene at 8 o'clock, and we're good to go.
Say again.
I just pushed the next scene at 8 o'clock, and we're good to go.
Yeah, you go to the next scene.
At 8 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds
Whenever
good.
it's confirmed live on both, then you go on the next screen.
Okay. Do you want to start earlier, or do you want to hold off until
No, we need to start at 8.
start at 8? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna hold off till 8. Thank you, Gabe. I think we got it set up.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I try to be consistent on that. It's sometimes a struggle.
Where's Gabe at?
We had
Sounded like an
like
airport.
14,000 views on our Facebook yesterday.
Good.
So
What are the numbers normally?
well, that's hard to say because prior to about 2 weeks before the election, or about a month actually, Facebook came out with a statement not directed at us, but basically to everybody, said that they were going to throttle down political speech 2 weeks prior to the election. I say that to say before that announcement, we had several that actually shows that got over 200,000 views on Facebook.
Wow.
And we were pushing about 20 on average. Leading up the last 2 weeks, we got down to where we only had about 1,200 views. And we'd fluctuate between like 1,200 to 7,000. After the election, it's slowly been ticking up to where we normally have at least 10,000 views every show.
Okay.
Now, the one the other day where we didn't go but over the one Facebook network, we only ended up with about 1,000.
Okay.
I did share it through the others, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
As when you punch it out live, people are ready to watch it. And we get most of the majority of our Facebook views over America's Voice News. Probably about 2/3 of them. So if they're not on it,
Then
our numbers drop dramatically. Now, we're also going over YouTube, and we've had the biggest videos so far, and I haven't gone way back and looked because sometimes they're cumulative. We have one that went over 2,000 views on YouTube itself. Most of them were averaging 30 to 100. I really don't know what's happening with Recoil TV because I really haven't gotten into the metrics of that. And America's Voice News streams us, rebroadcast us over their streaming service. And I've never really been able to get a straightforward answer from them as to how we're doing.
Yeah.
We must be doing okay because they've kept us on now for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And they keep moving us around to different times. They were showing us like late at night, like 2 o'clock in the morning. According to their listing now, and I just noticed this week, we're supposedly being showed at 1 o'clock Eastern time in the day. I don't know if we are, and we've had some trouble over the last couple of weeks between some technical issues and, of course, Gabe traveling and all this kind of stuff, getting the show uploaded to that. Because what happens is we go over their Facebook, but to go over their streaming service, there's a specific upload that we have to do, and Gabe has to do that. And I don't think he was able to do it last night because he said the internet connection where they were wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
But he struggles with that. Sometimes I have to kind of because he gets sidetracked.
Yeah.
Because he's got other responsibilities. And so we've been a little inconsistent with that, which is the biggest struggle for me with all this, because we've not in order to grow an audience, there's a lot of things out of our control, but being consistent is not one of them.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest challenge that I see. And I'm probably patting myself on the back, but I am the most consistent. In other words, I'm here every day, ready to go.
Yep.
That's not always the case on the other end. Some of it's technical stuff that happens because of the way it's done. I mean, we've had internet issues off and on. Don't seem to be now. They seem to be resolved. But of course, Gabe right now is kind of distracted.
Yeah.
And I totally understand that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, he's got a ton, but yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. And it's hard for me to really complain. I talk about it a little bit, but everybody, I realize that I am a small fish in a bigger pond in much ways, but we've never really been promoted. America's Voice News really hasn't even promoted us, and I'm hoping that will change. But all I can ultimately responsible for is I got to stay consistent myself and see what happens. And obviously, if Gabe decides to ultimately do something different, then that opens up a whole new can of worms and trying to get, because, and this is not like a knock on you in any way. I very much appreciate you being here. But we don't really have someone who is at the moment ready to step in
and take that.
I mean, like, for instance, we can't do any assets right now. Yeah. I'm not knocking you, but
I mean, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm not gonna.
Right, and I don't want you to, because the main thing is to get the show out and all that. But it definitely, people have come to expect a certain level, and between myself and certainly Gabe, we've achieved a certain level of that. Makes the show more entertaining. But if he were to leave tomorrow, I don't know where we would be. Yeah. So.
Knowing Tony and Sherry, I think we would figure something out. Oh,
I have no doubt.
Yeah.
But would it take a week?
Yeah.
And that goes back to the consistency thing, because the people out there watching it, they don't give a shit about that.
Yeah.
They just want to be able to watch it when they want to watch it and expect a certain thing. They don't.
As long as I'm around, I can do what I can do, but that's about all I can offer.
And none of this is a criticism. It's just, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest struggle that we've had, I think, is just maintaining a consistent, being on. I mean, and I'm not trying to compare myself, to like Tucker Carlson, but Tucker Carlson, that when you tune in at 8:00 on Fox, he's going to be there and the show's going to be right.
Yeah.
And that's what people expect. And if you don't, to whatever extent you can't do that, you hamper your ability to build an audience.
Yeah.
All right, I'm ready when you are, when it's ready.
Okay. I am going to wait until 8, and then I'm going to push next, and you'll see it pop up on the screen.
All right. I've got 8 on my computer, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
I got 7:59.
Huh?
I got 7:59.
Okay. Go when you're ready.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
I'm going.
Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, boy, ladies and gentlemen, does our country need saving right now? I mean, we are going through it. I'm not saying that we're having a challenge any worse today than past generations, and certainly who knows what future generations, but we are definitely going through some challenging times. We got a great show for you today, I hope. At least I feel like we do. It's a somber show. I'm going to tell you like it is. I struggled. I just got to tell you flat out. I get titles from the articles themselves, and I put the title on the show description myself. And I sometimes struggle. Most of the time, I come up with a pretty catchy title, but this particular one, I had trouble trying to figure out what title to put on it to kind of encapsulate everything that happened yesterday and basically what's happened up to this point in the Trump presidency, because that's really where we're at. And so I just decided to be straightforward with it. Congress certifies Biden electoral win. It gives me no pleasure to say that whatsoever. And we're going to get into it. I don't really know how else. I can't sugarcoat it. I can't. I'm going to try to explain it. I'm going to try to talk about what it means for us, the MAGA movement, what it means for America. But it is no other way than to just state it. I decided to just state it matter of fact. Congress certifies Biden electoral win. Before we go any further, though, I have to mention our sponsor, Big Daddy Unlimited, otherwise known as BDU. They are your Second Amendment headquarters, and I'll explain that in a second. But if you want to check out our sponsors, all you have to do is, no matter when or where you're watching the video, look above it. You'll see a show description. Scroll on that, and you'll see a link to our sponsor, Big Daddy Unlimited. They're your Second Amendment headquarters. You can get factory direct pricing. Yes, I said factory direct pricing to your doorstep, delivered right to you on anything Second Amendment related. Guns, ammunition, swag, tactical gear, literally thousands of items and products delivered to you at factory direct pricing. Big Daddy Unlimited. Check them out. I also call them your Second Amendment headquarters because they are definitely becoming the defender of choice for your Second Amendments. And Lord help us, we're definitely going to need defense of our Second Amendment because it is going to be under attack like never before. And that's I don't even know if that's a prediction or just a statement of fact. We also have patriotthreads.org, my friends at patriotthreads.org, apparel with a purpose. They have given us a 20% discount if you use the promo code JMT, John Martin Talks. Just put JMT, promo code, patriotthreads.org. And if time to time you've seen me sporting some of their shirts, they are one of the most patriotic apparel companies out there. They can also help you with charity events and all of that type of stuff. Check it out, patriotthreads.org. And of course, we're really tickled to death to continue to tell you that we have a new YouTube channel. Of course, we still have the steady one, John Martin Talks. Just spell it straight out and check it out. We really need more subscribers and views there. We're growing every day. Thank you very much. But we now have a channel on the YouTube channel, Recoil TV. Recoil TV is also a go-to destination for Second Amendment, especially if you're interested in any updates on the newest products out there, how to use them, some of the issues. We actually have a channel on Recoil TV, and we are excited to tell you that. And they have now archived pretty much all of our shows on there as well. So check it out, Recoil TV. All right, we're going to use a Politico article essentially as a template. And I'm going to cover a broad spectrum here from the Trump presidency to God help us. And I hate to say this, but God help, these are my words before we get in the article. Joe Biden is now going to be the 46th president of the United States. There's just no other way to say it. Even President Trump has acknowledged this. Now, he has not officially conceded. I don't expect him to. Conceding the election doesn't mean anything anyway. Has no legal standing. And Donald Trump firmly believes, as I do, as many of you do, that he won this election and that it was taken from him. That is my opinion. I believe it's based on facts. We'll talk about that, some of that. But, of course, algorithm on Facebook and Twitter and everything else. We have a Twitter handle, by the way. It's at John Martin Talks. My psychic sidekick here, Billy Bob Bass, has one. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1. And I'm determined to stay in the public square. Of course, Donald Trump has had both his Facebook as of this talking this morning, and his Twitter account suspended or blocked, and we'll get into some of that. But we need to stay in the public square. But at the same time, I am going to speak the truth. And Joe Biden is going to be, unless something happens between now and then, and I'm not predicting it will, nor necessarily hoping any, I'm certainly not hoping any negative thing, but Donald Trump has now come out and said himself that there will be a smooth transition from his administration to the Biden administration. Now, I don't know if President Trump will actually attend the inauguration. I personally, and I was going to talk about this later, but I might as well get it off my chest now. I think he should. I don't think he needs to. Well, of course, at the inauguration, the former president, the outgoing president, doesn't say anything anyway. But I do think it is important for the country. It's important for the MAGA agenda. It's important for President Trump's legacy. Now, to be there, in my opinion. Some of you may not like that. I understand that. I don't like it. I don't like it either, but I'm just telling you as it is. I think it is in the country's best interest. It is in Donald Trump's best interest, and it is in the MAGA movement's best interest for him to be there. I don't know whether he will be or not. He had talked about holding an opposite rally in Florida, for instance. We will see. I'm just giving you the facts. Let's get into this article. A beleaguered Congress finalized President-elect Joe Biden's victory early Thursday morning, capping a day of riots that turned deadly and briefly ground the nation's most powerful institutions to a standstill. Now, let me just get something else off my chest. Because one phrase you won't hear in this article, and I haven't heard anywhere anyone say this, and I'm not even saying they should say it, but what was the term we continue to hear when there were protests? That they were mostly peaceful, right? I haven't heard that. The reality is as bad, and we're going to get into the Capitol breach and all that in just a moment. And it was terrible, it's tragic. It will go down as a dark day in general in the history of the United States to actually breach the Capitol. Okay? It will. It just will. There's just no other way to put it. But you never hear the word mostly peaceful protest. And the reality is, by every count, that the vast majority, I'd say 99.999, as highest as you can get to almost 100% of people in Washington that had Trump memorabilia on, that were Trump supporters, were peaceful as they could be. In fact, I've got a couple of friends up there, if they're on their way back right now, literally as we speak, and I'm praying for their safe return. They're in the air, I think, as we speak. And I'm planning to have an interview with them for tomorrow's show if we can put the logistics together. So stay tuned for that. You're going to get a firsthand account. Our producer was up there filming. The people that Tony McKnight, the McKnights, Tony and Sherry McKnight, who are just extraordinary people. They own Big Daddy Unlimited. They were up there, and I'm planning to interview them if we can put it all together. But let me just tell you, they told me flat out that it was one of the most incredible events that they had ever attended. And these are people that have been for Trump from day one, have worked for him, literally run aspects of his campaign in the state of Florida, were at the inauguration, have been to many Trump rallies, including VIP things with the president himself, that kind of thing. And these people said that it was an extraordinary event, most of what happened yesterday. And they were caught off guard when they were actually leaving the area when they heard all the sirens that turned out to be the besiegement of the Capitol, the breach of the Capitol. And I can tell you this, I have not heard any person that I know of that has condoned the violence. Not one. Certainly all the pundits on the right, if you want to divide it into the left and right, have come out, and some of them probably too defensive, and condemn the violence. I condemn the violence without question. It should never happen. Now, on the left, of course, they're uniformly condemning the violence, but they haven't been consistent about condemning the violence at all. Remember Chris Cuomo, the CNN announcer? that basically said a few months ago, at the height of some of the cities burning and the Black Lives Matter and the Antifa protests, he said when something to the effect of when should, and by the way, the reason you don't see a lot of videos right now is our producer is out. And my good friend Matt is doing a great job filling in, but there are some technical issues. We will return to that in the not too distant future. But Chris Cuomo came out on CNN a few months ago and said, tell me where it says in the Constitution or whatever that protests need to be peaceful. Well, it actually is in the First Amendment, if you actually read it, that the right to peaceful assembly. But he actually questioned that. Now, you don't hear anybody on the right. You don't hear people on Fox News, love them, hate them, whatever. You don't hear people on America's Voice News. You haven't heard me on John Martin Talks. You haven't heard people on Newsmax and all that come out and defend the violence in any way, shape, or form. I haven't. If you have, let me know. I'd like to see it. You know, send me a link or something on Facebook, on YouTube. I will respond to your questions and comments as soon as I possibly can. But let me know. And this is not condoning it in any way. I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy of the left. But this term, let's get back to this article because I'm feeling a lot of different emotions today, as I'm sure a lot of you are. But it said that the Capitol was beleaguered. So I looked up the word beleaguered to see if I understand it. And there's two, a primary and secondary definition. The primary definition is lay siege to. Lay siege to. And the secondary is beset with difficulties. So they're saying that Congress was beleaguered, laid siege to, and beset with difficulties. True, there's no way to sugarcoat it. What happened at the Capitol is inexcusable. Now, whether or not it was led by true Trump supporters is questionable, and we'll talk about some of that in just a moment. But no matter what, it is inexcusable, and there were definitely some Trump supporters that were involved in it. I don't think there's any way, shape, or form. Now, do I believe that there's a strong possibility, likelihood, and maybe even outright fact that Antifa and people like that led this thing? Yeah, I do believe that there's ample evidence of that, and I'm hoping it will come out. But as far as beleaguered, let me read this definition again. Lay siege to, beset with difficulty. You know who has been beleaguered for 4 dadgum years? When you talk about, especially this primary definition, lay siege to, it's been Donald J. Trump. His presidency has been beleaguered from the moment he actually, before he even ran, before he even actually got the nomination and won, his presidency was beleaguered. If you look at the definition of laid siege to, the Democrats, the progressive left, the never-Trumpers, the mainstream media have laid siege to Donald Trump's presidency from before he even walked up the steps. This question of whether Trump should be at the inauguration of Biden, God help us, it looks like he's going to be president. I told you what I feel about it. But what really gripes me, chaps me as they say, is this idea, Obama, he attended it, and he showed dignity and grace. Now we know that behind the scenes, Obama, while he may look all presidential and charming and whatever, that behind the scenes, including President-elect Joe Biden as vice president, were trying to secretly hamstring President Trump while they're sitting there shaking his hand and grinning like the Cheshire Cat. They actually were hamstringing President Trump's presidency. So when you talk about a peaceful transition, how peaceful is it to be knifing you in the back the whole time they're shaking your hands in front of the TV? To me, I'd rather have somebody come up and slap me across the face and let me know where I stand with them than to be sneaking behind my back. And Obama and Biden and their administration are sneaky, and you could make a case that they're criminal. I don't even think that'll ever happen. So let me just say this. I'm going all over the map, but I got a lot I got to get out of my head, my heart, and my chest, so to speak. If you're waiting on the dadgum like Durham investigation, I heard some people talking about that again the other day on the radio. I hope I'm wrong, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, and if it does, it'll be pushed aside pretty easily that kind of thing. And the reason, ladies and gentlemen, and you're going to see the swamp is already filling back up. It's been filling up for the last couple of months, refilling and replenishing. And the rats are swarming like never before. And I'm going to tell you what they're going to try to do here in just a moment. But the reason why the Durham deal won't ever really see the light of day or to be brushed off is because the rats don't want to convict the rats. The establishment of both parties, yes, I'm talking about the GOP and the Democrats, they sit back and they're just waiting for their turn at the trough. That's all it is. And they've always hoped and prayed that Donald Trump would be a one-off, that no matter whether he served a second term or not, that once he was done, that he'd be done and Washington would return to normal and you would just go home and take your toys and go home. That's what they have. But Donald Trump has been beleaguered from day one. Back to this article. It was the last step in affirming Biden's election ahead of January 20th inauguration. Talking about the vote in Congress last night. It happened about 3:30 in the morning. But one marred by violence fueled by the sitting president Donald Trump, who urged his followers to march on the Capitol to pressure lawmakers to overturn the result. Is that really true? Is Donald Trump responsible for what happened at the Capitol? I don't see it. I don't see it at all. Donald Trump, they're going to try to blame him for this. They are going to try, that's my words, they are going to try to blame Trump for this. Who, and so you might ask, well, who is they? Conspiratorial. Let me tell you who they are. Basically every son of a gun up there, except for a small handful, and we'll get into some of that in just a moment. But essentially, the establishment of both parties don't want Donald Trump. Now don't misunderstand me. Nobody is happy that, 4 people apparently died up there. The lady that was shot in the Capitol, our prayers to her and her family, for her family. And apparently there were 3 other people that died up there for various things. It's still a bit sketchy as to what happened. They may have had a heart attack for all I know. But the powers that be up there are going to use this. I'm not saying they were for it. I'm not saying that they're happy it happened, but you can believe that they are going to use this tragedy, if you will, of breaching the Capitol. They're going to use this to try to destroy Donald Trump's legacy. Make no mistake about it. They're going to try to do that. They're going to make it very, very hard for people to support Donald Trump. I have been attacked in the last 12, 24 hours like you wouldn't believe by even some family members that out of the blue just hit me because they know what I do. They know that I love Donald Trump and that I'm a strong Trump supporter. And they have literally been bashing me unsolicited by text and everything else. I'm sure this is happening to other people. Troll on if you will. But I'm telling you right now, I love my family. I love my friends. I have never judged you based on that type of stuff. But if you want to judge me on that, bring it on. Bring it on, because now is the time to stand. And I'm not condoning the violence. I'm not even taking I don't think Donald Trump is to blame for it. I will give him some culpability. If I think so, I need to, I will speak the truth to you. But ladies and gentlemen, I am not planning to go anywhere. Now, who knows what's going to happen both with life, with Facebook, Twitter, all this kind of stuff. Whether I'm not even necessarily saying I'm going to have a show 10 minutes from now. You never, ever know. But I will tell you this. As long as I have this red, white, and blue microphone in front of me, as long as I have breath in my lungs, blood flowing through me, thank you, Lord, for that today. As long as I have the opportunity to speak to you, I'm going to speak to you from my heart and the truth as best I possibly can. So who is they? It's everybody up there in Washington, D.C. that is part of the GOP establishment, the never Trumpers, the radical left that is totally taken over the Republic. They've taken over Republican Party too, but taken over the Democratic Party. It's the mainstream media. Even Fox News, for what I can see, has pretty much cut ties with Donald Trump. They're not even faking it anymore. But let's talk a little bit about Mike Pence. It says here, Vice President Mike Pence formally ascertained Biden's win as the clock struck 3:32 a.m. Thursday morning. So basically Biden in all aspects became the next president at 3:32 a.m. Thursday morning. Now, Mike Pence, it's complicated, okay? First of all, let me tell you that I have met Mike Pence. He wouldn't know me from Adam necessarily, but I had the pleasure to meet Mike Pence during the campaign back in 2016. And I have nothing negative up to now to say about Mike Pence. I think he's been a very loyal servant to Donald Trump. I think he's been an excellent vice president. I think if something would have happened and he had become president, that he would be and would have been a great president. I'm glad that he didn't get that opportunity because I'm glad Donald Trump is serving out his term. But Mike Pence was between a rock and a hard place. I understand where he's coming from. This is where I would fault President Trump just a little. I think he did overplay the hand of what might actually happen yesterday, January 6th. Forget the riots for a minute. If everything had gone by the book or whatever, I don't think that Donald Trump was going to win any challenge that would make him president of the United States for another term. I think that ship, in my opinion, and I pretty much told you this at the time, that once the SCOTUS refused to actually listen to the evidence in that Texas case that was signed on by 20 some odd other states, including the great state of Florida, it was a long shot at best after that. It just was. Because if SCOTUS wasn't going to take up and hear the actual evidence, what choice do you think we had? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is not condoning what happened yesterday, but I can tell you that if you get to a point where you cannot have your grievances addressed or redressed, that's how our nation was founded. Our nation was founded with violence, was it not? I'm not advocating for it. I'm just telling you the historical fact. And it was when people were pushed to the brink where they felt like they had no choice but to declare their independence from England. And they knew exactly, those that signed the Declaration of Independence knew exactly what they were doing. And like Benjamin Franklin famously said at the time, we either hang together or we're going to hang separately. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they felt like they had no choice. So when you push people to the brink where they feel like they have no choice, they may in fact choose a violent outcome. And, a lot of good came out of that, right? United States of America. But a lot of bad, too. People's lives were destroyed. People were killed. People were harmed. And so, back to Mike Pence, I've got to kind of let this kind of stew in me for a while. I don't know that he had any other choice than to do what he did. But, maybe he made some statements that I didn't particularly agree with. We'll see. I'm not ready to totally condemn Mike Pence. Do I think he hurt himself for a future presidential run if that's what he aspired to, which I think is logical that he would? Probably so. There are going to be a lot of passionate Trump supporters that are never going to be able to get past this with Mike Pence. And I may be one of them. I'm not saying I am right now. I'm willing to at least contemplate and give him the benefit of the doubt. But I do think that he was in an extremely difficult situation and ultimately probably had no choice. He either had to act or just basically say, I'm not going to do it and resign. I don't know what else he could have done. You could disagree with me. Let me know. Though the outcome was never in doubt, this is back to the article, Trump fashioned the bicameral congressional session as a last stand of sorts, pleading for weeks with supporters to descend on Washington to disrupt the ceremonial electoral vote counting process. I don't know that he really wanted to disrupt it. I think they're kind of mincing words here. I think it's clear that Donald Trump wanted to show and put pressure on these congressional members that, hey, the MAGA army is behind me. I think that is absolutely true. And I don't really blame him at all about that. But I don't know that he was trying to disrupt, because that wouldn't serve his purpose. Let's face it, most people are at their core are going to, at the end of the day, do what they think is in their best interest. And I don't think Donald Trump is any different than anybody else when it comes. That's human nature. How is what happened ultimately in D.C. in besieging and breaching the Capitol? How does that help Donald Trump in any way? Now, you could love Donald Trump, you could hate Donald Trump, you could not give two hoots about Donald Trump. But one thing, if you're honest, would have to say he's a pretty sharp dude. He's pretty smart. You may not like him. You may think he's nuts at some level, but that doesn't mean he's not smart and calculating. He would not have gotten where he was without being pretty sharp tool, man. He really is. So if you accept that, and I think you should, then why would he, being the businessman he is, do anything that would harm his brand? And yes, it is a brand. It's a brand. You don't think Biden has a brand? Everybody has. Heck, we all have a brand to a certain extent. And most of us are not intentionally going to harm that brand. And Donald Trump is no different. In fact, he's better at promoting his brand than most, which is one of the reasons why he's risen so far, right? He's pretty dadgum good at it. So, why would he promote something like this? And I don't think he did. Did he promote trying to showboat a little bit and P.T. Barnum and have a last grand big stage? Yeah, absolutely he did. And is he going to use this in some way or form or fashion to promote his brand even further, both politically, economically, and everything else? Most certainly he is. I would expect nothing less. But as far as the outcome being in doubt, as I said yesterday, that vote that they were going to take is going to be a defining moment. Now, what happened with the besiegement, if you want to call it that, the breachment of the Capitol, is a lot of, and once again, I hate to keep caveating this stuff, I'm not saying anybody is glad it happened, but one of the results of this is the lot of people were let off the hook. Because they could come back and basically say, because if I didn't watch the proceedings late last night, but I read in depth about them and I watched a little bit of the coverage of it early this morning. They basically pushed this thing down the road and aside. They got it done much quicker than I think they would have. Thousands of people, it says, complied with they're asserting here that Donald Trump was ordering people to bum rush the Capitol. I don't think that's true. Thousands complied, rushing Capitol Police and plunging the typical ceremonial proceedings into mayhem. Vice President Mike Pence, Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and other congressional leaders were whisked to safety as a mob overtook the Capitol and shut down proceedings for hours. That part is absolutely true. Now, ladies and gentlemen, and there's no way to predict this or to actually go back, but I think that the proceedings that we saw that concluded at roughly 3:30 last night would have lasted for at least another day, maybe a couple days, because I think they'd have been drawn out. Everybody would have wanted to give these grandiose speeches one way or another and all that kind of stuff, and they would have drugged this thing out for several days. I don't think there's any doubt about that, if not for this breach. But this breach, and I'm not necessarily saying I blame them, because it was a breach and they needed to get the business done. I mean, it is. So that's another reason why it wasn't in Donald Trump's benefit at all to have the Capitol breach. And Donald Trump, one of the things that he's accused of, right, by the left and the Never Trumpers, is that he always does things to benefit him personally. Well, if true, then how did having the Capitol breach yesterday benefit him personally? I'd love to hear some evidence you have that shows that Donald Trump somehow benefited from what happened. If anything, Donald Trump, now with his legacy, has to overcome what happened yesterday. I don't think there's any doubt. And Trump supporters, individually and collectively, we have to overcome that. because we're definitely going to be labeled. I had one of my cousins, and I know he was playful with me. He's a Trump supporter, but he contacted me this morning saying, "Oh, you better lay low, man. They're going to put you in like thought control concentration camp if you don't. And I'll come visit you." And he was teasing me about it, and I appreciate it. But his point is well taken. But that ain't me, and he knew that. That's not me. I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to live in fear. I'm just not. But back to this article. What unfolded at the Capitol was the culmination of months of Trump's exhortations to his allies to overturn the results of 2020 election based on baseless claims of fraud. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right there, that last statement is the problem. I'm not condoning what happened, but I'm explaining it to you. The fact that they say election based on baseless claims of fraud, that's the real problem. Because they keep saying it's baseless when it's not. The Texas case, and I'm not going to get into the dead people voting. We all know they've been joking about that for a long time. The cheat by mail, all of that stuff. Okay. And I think, yes, it happened in Georgia. But we have to, and by the way, it looks like that both those Senate races have been won by the Democrats. So they're going to be in control of the whole kit and caboodle. So it's going to be tough, man. It's going to be tough, but we got to keep fighting. I'm going to talk about that today and as the days move forward. But the fact that the Supreme Court refused to even see the evidence of what all of us who actually, even people who hate Donald Trump, if they're honest about it, and they would have to admit that there was certainly grounds for a challenge that what happened in many, many states violated the U.S. Constitution, because the U.S. Constitution is very, very clear on the presidential election. It's up to the states. We have basically 50 separate elections, not one nationwide, deal. And every state has different rules and regulations. But the Constitution is clear as to who sets those regulations and thus who can change them. And it is the state legislature in every case that has the authority to do that. No one else other than the state legislature has the authority to change election law when it comes to the presidential election. No Secretary of State, no governor, no Supreme Court, state Supreme Court cannot do that. So the Texas case was rock solid. Whether or not it would have been proven out to be enough to overturn the election is what the Supreme Court should have decided on. But the mere fact that the ultimate Supreme Court would not even look at the evidence and turn away, because they're cowards in my view. They didn't want to interfere, and I get that, but they're ultimately cowards because it was their responsibility to their constitutional duty. They threw it aside. They cast it aside. And so if you are a passionate person and you believe in your heart that Donald Trump, the election was stolen from him, and 83% in the latest polling I've seen of Republican, I'm not talking about Republicans in the House of Representatives or the Senate. I'm talking about our elected state legislatures. I'm talking about rank and file Republicans. 83% of them said they thought this election was fraudulent. About 30% or more of independents thought the same thing. And believe it or not, there are millions of Democrats, according to the polling, that felt the same way. They may be happy with the result, but they think that it was fraudulent. So if you have 83%, let's just take the Trump voters. If you have 74 million people, which I remind you is more than any sitting president has ever gotten. They sweep that under the rug like it means nothing. That 74 million people that voted for Donald Trump, that at least 83% of them feel like this election was fraudulent, and they have no recourse. They've been told that they're idiots, they're fools, they don't believe their lying eyes, all that kind of stuff. At some point, what do they do? What do they do? I don't think violence is the answer, but it has been in the past. Our country was founded on violent conflict. It just was. There's no way to shoot. You can ban me from whatever. It's just the truth. And the truth is, what needs to happen. Of course, we are living in Orwellian times right now. Because George Orwell, I repeat it quite often on the show, George Orwell famously said that the more a society drifts from the truth, the more they will hate the people that speak it. And I can tell you from friends and family, hey, that is true, man. That is true. And here's the thing that I chime back in on one of these family members that hit me. I tell them, are you actually telling me that the only recourse I have is to agree with you? I've never told anyone they have to agree with me. I think you'd be smart to, but I'm not telling you have to. In fact, I welcome opposite opinions. I tell people, even trolls that troll me all the time, I tell you all the time, thank you for listening to the show, and please spread it and share it with others. I want as many people to listen and watch me as possible. I'm not trying to cut anybody out, but I am an American, and I believe I have the freedom to speak my opinion. Doesn't make me right, but I am most of the time, I will tell you that. And if I'm not, tell me where I'm wrong. Challenge me. Let's have a debate. But don't just challenge me with I even had someone tell me that knows me, personally knows my family, that, you're a racist. I'm a racist. I was literally holding my black grandchild in my arms when I got that text from somebody. It's just, if you know anything about me, you know that if I'm the racist person in the room, then I sure have some pretty smart people that have been totally buffaloed by me, right? And one of them married me. It's just crazy. But anyway, and these are people who knew me and said that, right? But I've also seen this time, I've been seeing this for a while, that people on Facebook have chimed in and said that if Donald Trump doesn't get his rightful due and get reelected here, that they will never vote again. Never vote again. And certainly you have the right to do that. I'm not saying you don't. I think it's a mistake. I understand your frustration. Heck, about 90%, I live in one of the most blue places on the planet in Alachua County, Florida, where, we're that blue lake in the middle of a sea of red in north central Florida. I've lived in a blue wave my whole life. And I can tell you right now that about 90% of the people that I vote for never get elected, including myself. So I get your frustration. Trust me on that. I absolutely do that. But to me, if you give in, then you're giving them exactly what they want. I personally, and I'm going to keep hammering this point, I think we got to educate ourselves. And educate others. I think we got to motivate ourselves and motivate others. I think we've got to get activated ourselves and activate others. The solution to me is to, if you're angry, and I'm angry and disappointed, I'll probably literally be emotional, shedding tears, on the 6th, on the 20th, on the 6th I did as well, when Joe Biden, God help us, actually becomes president, and it just looks like it's going to be the truth. And I don't know if there's anything I can do about it. I've been working pretty hard about it. But, take that anger, take that disappointment. And I'm not saying don't enjoy your family. Heck, I wish I was going fishing this weekend, but my trip got canceled due to weather. It's going to be rough seas. I was dying to go, but ain't nothing I can do about it. Weather's in God's hands, at least for now, right? But take all that anger. And one thing you could do is actually take over the Republican Party. Yes, you can take it over. You're Democrat, if you want to take your party back over. Let me tell you very quickly how simple it would be to take over the Republican Party. I'm not talking about the elected officials, because they're not the Republican Party. They're representatives of it. They're who we voted in, good, bad, or whatever. But you could take over the Republican Party in a few months. Because all you got to do is take over the local Republican Party. Now, every state's a little bit different, But essentially you have, and the Democrats the same way, you're structured that you have local, county, parish, whatever, parties. And most of them, especially Republicans, I can tell you, especially in places that aren't heavily Republican, are desperate for people to actually fill those seats. You can be a precinct committee man or woman. Check the rules. You can literally be voted in. If no one even runs for it, you're automatically in, basically, depending on what the rules and regulations say. And I say all that to say it is the local parties that impact who the chair of the local party is, that then in turn impact who represents at the state level and becomes the state chair. Okay, and then the national chair and the national committee is voted on from the bottom up, not from the top down. This is a little secret they don't necessarily want you to know. So if you are angry, if you are resentful, if you are motivated, get educated, get activated, take over your local party, and you will automatically, if enough of us do it, you will take over the Republican Party. You don't do it from the top down, you do it from the bottom up. And what does our Constitution actually say? Doesn't it say something about we the people? It doesn't say Donald Trump. It doesn't say the President of the United States. It doesn't say Mitt Romney or Chuck Schumer. It says we the people. That's you and me. That's everyday, ordinary American citizens. And if we don't do it, then it's not going to get done. And yeah, things will go along, and the Democrats are better at it than we are. They just are. But if we just give up and say, I'll never vote again, then it's over. It's over. And I think we deserve better than that. I think we deserve better than that. I'm not giving up. Not today. Talk to me tomorrow, but not today. Let's check my time. Got a few more minutes left. Lawmakers tweeted urgently at the president to call off his supporters and described in real time the violence and destructions they were witnessing. I bet they were scared. I would be too. Some immediately called Trump's conduct impeachable. What did he do? He actually told people to go home, right? While other Republicans and Democrats described it as a coup attempt and insurrection. I had someone tweet me that. Oh, you're an insurrectionist, huh? A coup attempt. Well, what would you call impeachment of the president for nothing? Absolutely nothing. For starting the impeachment process against him literally before he actually got sworn in. To me, that's a coup. And you remember when Mitch McConnell, and by the way, why is he even up there? And I'm not picking on Kentucky, because you could say the same thing about, multiple people. Utah with Mitt Romney, us with Marco Rubio and all that kind of stuff. Why are they still there? See, this is where we have to put our action. Yeah, it's when it comes to a choice between a Republican and a Democrat at the top, sometimes you got to hold your nose and vote, because you may not get what you want out of the Republican, but you know what these crazy Democrats are going to do. I get that. But the power of the party is in your hands in the primaries. Mitch McConnell should have been primary. I know he was. He should not win. And whoever took his place would have won in the state of Kentucky, would they not? That's where we got to get educated, motivated, and activated at the local level. We got to throw these bums out and put other people up there. Yes, it might cost us a seat or two, but if we're actually educated, motivated, and activated, we can eliminate some of these people. And that's what it's about, man. Because remember Mitch McConnell, and he said he was chastised for saying he wanted to make, when Obama became president, his mission was to make Obama a one-term president. Now, he's like one of the leaders of the Republican Party. That's what he is supposed to do, right? But he never said he wasn't going to give the man at least a term. The Democrats and a lot of never-Trumpers have never actually given Donald Trump the ability to even be president. It is amazing. And I agree with what President Trump said in his statement about the peaceful transition, that he had the best first term in the history. I can't argue with that. I think he did. And when you look at what Donald Trump was able to do, in spite of all the things he had to go through, it is more amazing. But they're going to use this historians, everything else, they're going to try to use what happened in the Capitol yesterday to tarnish Donald Trump's legacy. He needs to work against that, and if you care about Donald Trump, we need to help with that. And packing our toys and going home or just being pissed off and being up in people's faces and all that is not going to help. We need to be happy warriors, but warriors nonetheless. I'm going to say that again. We need to be happy warriors, but warriors nonetheless, But insurrection. That gets me when now I'm not condoning, and what happened yesterday is, you could title that. But what really gets me is how, some types of rioting are okay. So if you're actually up there for truly insurrection, if you believe that the government needs to be knocked down, that's terrible, right? I mean, our country was founded on insurrection, by the way, but that's terrible. But if you're just going to grab a Gucci, that's okay, man. You're justified, sanctified in the end because you're getting reparations or whatever. I mean, it's just amazing to me. Violence against other Americans and American interests, our institutions. I mean, you can burn a courthouse down, bomb it every day for 100 days in Portland, and it's just a myth, according to Jerry Nadler, right? None of this is meant to condone what happened, but that's part of the reason. If you condone violence, then that's what you're going to get. Political violence always inspires other political violence. So if anyone is to blame, it is both sides of the aisle if they let violence go on just because it serves their purpose. And I think the Democrats, any honest deal would have to admit that. Okay, I only got about 1 minute left, and I want to read this part right here. This is Lindsey Graham. Enough is enough, declared Lindsey Graham, who had until Wednesday night encouraged Trump to continue pursuing legal challenges to his defeat, even after it became clear that he was promoting baseless claims of fraud. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, what is going to happen now. You're going to see, and I'm sad to predict this, you're going to see that the GOP, and I'm not talking about the rank and file members, I'm talking about the people up there, the Mitch McConnells of the world, they are not going to have a problem being the minority party. They're well suited for it. They actually thrive as being a minority party. You know why? Because they can spout out stuff and not have to do anything. Do I need to say anything other than Obamacare? Remember how the Republicans were, when we get the power, we're going to do away with this, man. It is god awful and everything. And when they had the power, they did squadoosh. Okay, so I'm not worried about the minority status of the GOP because they're dadgum good at it. What I am concerned about is American people and what we're going to do. I could go on and on, but I'm out of time. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, is the fight has just begun, and we have to have the challenge and the courage of our time to face it. Because if we don't, they're going to win. Even more so, and we're going to lose even if we're home, spouting stuff off. I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to John Martin Talks Facebook page, like it, and share it with others. Hopefully tomorrow's show, we will have an interview with some great people who were up there in Washington. They're flying back as we speak, and I pray for their safe return. Should be very interesting, so tune in. I'll pray for your family. You pray for mine. Let's all pray for this great nation and our president, because I think they both deserve it. Because. But as I say each and every day, ladies and gentlemen, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.